A Tall and Small Collection, Season 2, Chapter 29, Cloud Watching and Admissions. The sun crept over the horizon the next day, light streaming in through the windows and casting luminant shadows with its soft light. The sounds of the city hummed along, creating the pulse of life within the concrete jungle. So many lives working together, living and creating their own experiences. While some spent the day preparing to go to work and take the day one step at a time, others were just waking up, preparing for the day. As soon as her eyes were open, Ashlyn was wide awake, heart hammering in her chest. The events of the day before were emotionally exhausting, but they were also fresh in her mind, making her heart thrum happily. A quick glance at her bedside table revealed the Borrower brothers and little Maisie sound asleep beside her. It took all her willpower to not lean over to Soren and kiss him awake. Instead, she laid there and absorbed his features, from the dark brown hair hanging in his eyes to the way his arm curled around his frame. How did she get so lucky? How did she deserve this feeling? Whatever it was, she refused to let it go. She swore she would take every second to cherish her time with her found family, and what better time to start than now? Silently, she slipped out of her bed and crept into the kitchen. The pads of her feet made no sound as they patted against the ground while she slipped into the morning routine of making coffee and checking the weather. The moment she read warm and partly cloudy, she knew what they were going to do today. Ashlyn pulled out a picnic basket and 2 of her blankets. She wouldn't eat much in the way of food, and instead focused on variety, picking things the Borrower family may or may not have tried before. Sandwiches, snacks, games, and blankets all by the door. She had just enough time to sit and finish her cup of coffee before hearing the soft call of Ray, the youngest Borrower brother. Ashlyn? His voice was still saturated in sleep. I'm here, she called gently, not wanting to startle him with her significantly louder voice. Ashlyn waited before peering over the ledge to see Ray staring up at the couch. His dirty blonde-brown hair was riddled with bedhead, and his brow was furrowed in contemplation. With his injury, he was obviously debating how he wanted to get up onto the couch. Need a hand? Asked Ashlyn. After a moment, she heard a bashful yes from Ray. He wanted to be independent and strong, but he wasn't afraid to admit when he needed help at the same time. She chuckled to herself and lowered her hand so Ray could curl against her fingers. The weight of him was present, but required no effort at the same time to lift. Ashlyn placed her hand onto her knees so Ray would have somewhere comfortable to sit as she wrapped up a few online chores. Busy? He asked with a stifled yawn. Not entirely. Just typing up a couple loose ends at work, scheduling meetings and showings and stuff like that. Anyway, sleep well? Your hair tossed more than you, I bet. Ashlyn curled her ring and middle finger to playfully bump his back. Oof, hey, not fair, he grinned, wheeling around and attempting to wrestle the fingers away. I'll never quit. I'll beat you one-handed. With a mighty Borrower tackle, Ray shoved Ashlyn's fingers away, laying against them, sprawled out as he kept one finger in a makeshift headlock. After a few moments, however, he rolled over and let his body go limp so he fit the natural curve of her fingers. He folded his arms before a hesitant look filled his pale blue eyes. So, before everyone gets up, I wanted to talk to you about something. Or, I guess ask you something, said Ray. What kind of question was this? Was it about her and Soren? How they could have feelings and be so close? I wanted to say something before, but it never really seemed like a good time. An instant knot formed in Ashlyn's gut, rapidly filling with dread. Oh no. Had Soren not given Ray and Dorian the talk? Ray, Soren might be a better person to talk to, suggested Ashlyn. But Ray shook his head. No, I want to talk to you about it first. I think I know how Soren will react, and I want to hear what you think, said Ray. Plus, you know him, well, both of them, so it's better context, said Ray, as he forced himself upright into a cross-legged position. Wait, him? Asked Ashlyn. Yeah, Sam, said Ray. A gathering tension in Ashlyn's shoulders released, and she let herself relax, but only a little. If Ray was bringing up Sam, it had to mean something. Oh, okay. I thought you were going to ask about Soren and I, or something else along those lines, said Ashlyn, shaking off the thought. Oh, ha, no, I don't want to brag, but I saw that coming, grinned Ray, puckishly. Anyway, well, let me talk to Soren about that, okay? Uneasily, Ashlyn nodded in agreement, reserving the right to change her mind later, or, at the very least, convince Ray otherwise. Okay, said Ray. Before we got sick and all that, Hero came over and asked if I could help him with this helping people thing. Ray took a breath before continuing, which made Ashlyn uneasy, and, based on what Ray said next, she had good reason to be so. When we were out, we were seen by Sam, he confessed. It wasn't on purpose, and if I'm being honest, it didn't really seem to bother Hero at all. Well, Sam had this thing called a volcano for a science experiment going, and I fell into the glue. Ashlyn was instantly reminded of what happened the last time that Ray had fallen into glue. He was much younger at the time, but it was still traumatic all the same. The poor child, around 7 or so, had fallen face first into a glue trap meant for a mouse. It was the first time she had met Ray officially. Her heart clenched at the thought of Ray being stuck once more in the sticky substance. He had been so afraid at the time. Ashlyn could still hear his pitiful cries as he clung to Soren for comfort and protection. Her insides clutched as she looked at him, now worried. Are you okay? I mean... Ashlyn's voice trailed off as Ray nodded. Yeah, I'm fine. It was bad at the time, but I'm okay now, reassured Ray. You sure? Asked Ashlyn. The borrower teen nodded again. So, you're worried about Sam and Hero? Or are you worried how Soren will react? Both? But I'm more worried about Sam and Hero. You said Sam was good. But what if he isn't? What if he tells another human about us accidentally? He's a little younger than us, just a kid. But Hero thinks he can keep the secret. Hero didn't seem nervous at all around Sam, which makes me worry about him. I just don't know if I fully believe Hero that Sam will keep us a secret or not, said Ray, looking like a weight had been lifted off of his chest by saying everything out loud all at once. I mean, you said you knew him. You don't think he'll tell or anything, right? Ray played with the straps on his brace as he spoke. Ashlyn thought carefully about the human boy. Sam was a good kid, but Ray was also right. He was young and possibly prone to letting things slip. I think he's safe, and that he'd be careful about keeping borrowers a secret, especially if he's friends with Hero. You said Hero didn't seem nervous? No, he actually called Sam over to help me. Ray shuddered involuntarily as he reached out and wrapped his arm around Ashlyn's thumb, seemingly for comfort. I want to help him, but I'm afraid he's a little too reckless. What do I do? Well, said Ashlyn, you kind of answered it yourself, didn't you? You want to keep helping people, so do it. But, above all, you have to make sure you're keeping yourself safe. As for Hero, I'll bring it up next time if he comes by to see us. I have a bad feeling his altruism is going to get him into trouble. I know you know this, but you have to make sure you're safe too. I know, said Ray, leaning against Ashlyn's thumb. I don't know how to protect him from himself. Live by example and keep being yourself? Said Ashlyn, posing the suggestion as a question rather than a statement. Ray nodded quietly to himself, obviously still hesitant. And honestly, if helping people with Hero makes you uncomfortable, then you can just tell him and help people on your own. Don't be afraid to tell him you changed your mind, said Ashlyn. But I'm afraid of just that, said Ray, shifting uneasily. If I don't go with him and he gets in trouble, then no one will know. Well, then just shift your focus. Instead of helping people, make your focus helping Hero, suggested Ashlyn. Ray contemplated this for several seconds before nodding. You know, I think that might very well be the best solution, replied Ray. His thoughtful blue eyes beamed up at Ashlyn. Thanks. The two of them talked for the next half an hour about new gadgets and how to repair Ray's other contraptions when the rest of the borrower family came into the living area. Thought you were going to sleep the whole day away, Ashlyn teased as she helped them up onto the couch. Probably could have kept sleeping. Next time, make sure to get me up. I don't need to sleep the day away, muttered Soren as he stifled a yawn. He stepped over and sat Maisie down, rearranging the blankets to better function as a playpen when Ashlyn shook her head. Don't get too comfortable, she said. I've got something fun planned for the day. The borrower stared up at her curiously. Something planned? Like what? Asked Dorian as he scratched absent-mindedly at the edges of his cast. We're going out, said Ashlyn, which instantly earned her some worried glances from Soren. Don't worry, it's nothing crazy. There's a park nearby, just a quick drive, where we can enjoy the sun. You know, like a little picnic. It's going to be partly cloudy and pretty today. I've already got blankets, games, snacks, and know the perfect spot where you won't be noticed. What do you think? The teenage boys looked at their oldest brother eagerly. Soren, what do you think? Asked Ray eagerly. We'll be nice and quiet. Come on! It's been too long since we've had a chance to enjoy the great outdoors safely. Plus, it'll be Maisie's first time. Soren looked at his brothers' eager faces, and then to Maisie, who was already trying to climb the blankets like a miniature mountain. He looked up into Ashlyn's blue-gray eyes as he thought. It would be nice for the family to go out and enjoy the fresh air. Being trapped in the same four walls for days at a time wasn't good for their health, and it would be a nice reset from recent events. Also, if they were lucky, he and Ashlyn might get a few minutes to themselves if the boys were exploring or watching Maisie close by their picnic spot. As long as we follow the safety rules and don't venture too far off, I think it would be nice, for a change of scenery," grinned Soren. The boys cheered, and within minutes they were safely tucked into the pocket of Ashlyn's hoodie and making their way down the elevator. The drive wasn't a long one, once they made it to her car, but once the bar was re-emerged from Ashlyn's pocket, they had to admit it really was the perfect spot. The area was covered in flowers, and a big tree by a little stream that was only 6 inches wide, leading from a little pond. There was a bike trail a little ways away, and a playground that was far enough away that no one would venture this far over toward them. Even if they did, there would be enough time for the Barber brothers and little Maisie to hide away and avoid being discovered. Soren and the others investigated the stream, while Ashlyn set up a partial tent and picnic area. While the 2 younger brothers entertained Maisie and helped her collect acorn top hats, Soren wandered back toward Ashlyn and smiled up at her. "Quite the setup," he grinned. "Thank you. You didn't have to do all of this." "I wanted to. It's the least I could do for the family," said Ashlyn back, leaning over onto her arms and sprawling out on the blanket. A breeze whispered through the branches of the tree, ruffling Soren's hair. "Perfect day, too," he said, staring up at the sky and the large, fluffy clouds suspended in the blue. "Perfect date," whispered Ashlyn. Soren glanced at her just in time to see her flirtatious wink. Coyly, he grinned and put his hands on his hips, now feeling bashful. "Date?" he asked. "Isn't it?" asked Ashlyn. Soren smiled puckishly. "Only if we kiss," he said. Ashlyn, biting her lower lip teasingly, looked over at the 2 brothers and Maisie. "Well, I think I can fix that," she whispered. She placed her fingers against Soren's spine and pulled him closer, placing her lips against his chest. They pulled away just as the others came back, and, for the rest of the morning, they laid back and watched the clouds go by. Ashlyn, from time to time, would reach up and stroke Soren's side as he hugged her fingertips. Hours passed, and the sun was high in the sky by the time they made their way back to their home. It was a great day, and Ashlyn knew it was only going to get better from then on. At least, she hoped it would.